everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And Bill did not inform me until I was here with Dave and Bill that I was the first female fly tyer for the chapter. So like, woo! But I'm so excited to be here. I'm Christy Carlson from Pioneer Anglers. We've had a family-owned and run fly shop since '09. So next year about this time we'll be on our 10th anniversary. But I'm so excited to be here with all of you, and I know many of you, and I hope to know the rest of you that I haven't introduced myself to. But tonight, I thought as I was pondering what flies I would tie for you, I thought I'd go back to the basics, some of the first ones that I started to tie. And with that, one of them is an old school pattern, and it was originally just a Star Valley pattern that started out. It's called the Cottonwood Special. And an old angler, well, I shouldn't say old, a previous angler out in Star Valley many years ago. And this was a little fly. It's just a little small nymph pattern that started out for Cottonwood Lake in our area, where it was a little still water section that was hard to fish, and those fish were so picky, and everybody was like, why is that gentleman always catching and the rest of us aren't? Well, this little pattern has a few components in it. We're going to start out, I'm going to tie on a size 10 or a size 6, excuse me, a size 6, whatever is your favorite nymph, scud, pupa, hook that's for you. But it's just, we're going to start out with that natural curve of the hook for this pattern. And you could go, I really like the 135s from Dairiki. Where are we? Ooh, yeah, right there. But I mean, this is not the typical size we would do this hook or this pattern on. The largest size would be a 14 on a good day. That is it. It goes 14, 16, 18, and 20 for this pattern. But I'm going to tie this pattern for you on a size 6. Good visual. You can see everything. And the nice thing is, it's very minimal materials, and it's stuff that you have laying around in your fly tying arsenal at home. And so, and I'm just going to show you a few techniques that I use with this pattern and a few applications, because not only in Star Valley or any other still water area, but also with, we will change the coloring and go to what we would use below the dam into more of a freshwater shrimp type pattern, because the secret ingredient is a little tiny piece of foam. I gotta get this down, the left to right. A tiny little secret piece of foam that we're gonna be using in this pattern. And so it's going to be a dubbed pattern, and it's typically the original pattern. It is evolved. This is what it's evolved to nowadays, but originally it was olive thread and also just black thread. It was a 2-color pattern nymph. That's all that it was. And so when those fishermen, those anglers were watching, Cottonwood Lake is just a small little reservoir that is 7 miles south of Afton, so right before, and it's just a little area that has a little rock wall area that's harder to get to from your access fishing side. So with a pontoon or a kick boat or a little kayak or paddleboard or whatever you want to get out to it, even just an inner tube is awesome just to get out to it. But everybody sees all these fish rising in that area. And in that area, and you've all seen it, you've all been there before, where you're just like, what are they feeding on? What are they feeding on? And so you're like, well, I don't know, but let's watch them, you know, and you go and you do your insect collection and you do your match the hatch thing. And well, this little buddy, so you can see those trout rising, and you know they're sipping, they're not breaking the surface. They're just sipping. So this is a fly that's applicable for those areas where you see the fish sipping and where they're not breaking through all the way, but you know they're feeding on something that's emerging or holding there in that sipping area of the water. So with that, we've got the Cottonwood Special, and like I said, the original pattern was just olive. It's a 2-tone, and I'm going to hold up my 2 little samples for you, maybe. it's a two-tone, but that secret ingredient, which is the foam, is going to keep it just in that sipping level. It's going to go down and it's going to come up, and then it's just going to hold there, not above the surface, not below in that feeding zone, but just in that sipping level. And so right here I've got more of a shrimp looking pattern, and then the original that's olive with the black, the two-tone. And so, and you'll see that secret ingredient is right there. It's just a little foam strip. And so it's just a simple, fun thing, but it's where, this is a pattern that you can apply it, change the coloring, apply it to where you're fishing, or where you are like, maybe I should pull out that secret ingredient fly, the Cottonwood Special, or rename it to whatever your lake special is. Or some little area where you're like, wow, those little fish, they're being so difficult. But today, typically, I've been tying them into the 16, 18, and I've been using, ooh, these are so close, on Brandon's Moonlit hooks that I've started to use. I look forward to fishing with them. I haven't fished them all as of yet, but I have an arsenal set up ready to go on those. But today, like I said, I'm going to just start with this larger hook, and I'm just going to start out with what you have in your arsenal at home in your fly tying. I'm just going to start out with an olive thread, and like I said, the original pattern and the original angler that started this pattern was Stuart Thurman, that we know of in the valley. And so with this, it's just laying on, starting out, getting your thread base. I'm not too worried about that hole touching the thread. It's going to be dubbed, so I'm not too concerned about getting, you know, thread to thread all the way through. It's just enough to get that base because we're going to grip on. And with that, as we go down the shank, tighten that up. And getting that thread base, I'm just going to come back to where my thread would hang. And I am a little rebellious on most things. And when they say, oh, don't go past the barb, I'm one of those people that will say, I'm going to take it one thread wrap past that barb. Just because I have to, you know, push my boundaries and see, you know, what is really going to happen if I go past that barb or if I don't. So just so you know, I'll always take you a little down, you know, my path. It's not usually, you know, the wrong path. It's just a little more adventurous, I hope. But with this, I want you to think about, as I get my dubbing, what you have at home. What olives, what colors, what natural colors do you have? And I brought a little sampling because as I tie and I dub, I don't even know if that's good. Anyway, I'm just gonna hold it up. So what you have in your arsenal, different little colorings. I like to always have a tiny bit of a glitz, a little bit of a flare to whatever I'm tying. It doesn't mean that it needs to, and it probably should be more muted and more dull than what it is, but I do have to have that glitz. It just makes me feel a little more sparkly and happy inside. And you can't deny that ever, because once you have, so here, we were talking earlier, and we were talking about, oh, when you meet somebody, like we were talking earlier, so when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, I'm good, how are you doing? How are you doing, Bruce? How are you doing, man? Good? Yeah, you're just good? And we were talking earlier, but here's the thing, this is what sparkle does to me. When I think of it, I'm like, oh, I have this, you know, beautiful, you know, the fish are like, yeah, that's normally what I eat all the time, right? Yeah, good old plain old matte, you know, flat coloring, that's what I always eat. But why won't add a little sparkle? Just like when you meet somebody, add that sparkle and be that sparkle in somebody's life and say, you know what? I am excellent. I am amazing. I don't know, but you know what? You got to say it with me right now. Everybody say, I am amazing. 1, 2, 3. I'm amazing. Hallelujah. Okay, so now that we got that over with, think of the fish. So here, my little friend, I'm not a fish, of course, but it's not, you know, overzealous, you know, over-exaggerating on that sparkle. It's just enough. So adding just enough of a little hint of a sparkle. So I like to mix my own dubbing. So I will take, I do like going to yard sales and finding fly tying materials. Who loves to do that too? Yeah? Anybody? because you find some of the oldest neat stuff, but coloring is amazing. So today, I'm gonna take you that bland, hey, I'm all right, I'm good right here. So I'm gonna take that, I'm good, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of I am amazing right here. I have to say, she's my inspiration. I forgot your name already. Susie. She was my inspiration for that thought right there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of hey, I'm okay, that little bit of flat dub, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of I'm amazing. I am a big fan of ice dubbing, UV dubbing, ice dubbing, anything. I'll add it to most everything. I don't really want that, you know, oh, I'm a glamorous, non-edible fly. I just want that hint of I'm just a little extra special. So you should be eating me instead of that plain old, you know, cheeseburger over there. You should be taking in this steak right here. That's what I'm after. So just taking it, and when I take and mix I just do it on the spot all the time. When I take and mix my dubbing, I'll take a little bit of the A-OK, and then a little bit of the hey, I'm amazing right here. And it's just a pinch of each, because this fly, especially when we're doing the 14, 16, 18 to a 20, it's just a small amount. But I'm just gonna shelf it and mix it in. And if I do feel that it's too much, because, you know, we really do wanna match, you know, what's going on with that subsurface feeding, but we do want that little extra special of you should be eating me instead of, you know, the real food. Really eat me so I can catch you. But yes.
Do you tie at the location, or do you observe and then take that information home with you?
Oh, I just tie at home and observe, yeah. I'm too instant gratification to tie on the spot. I want to catch that fish. So I want to catch him. But with this pattern that was originally, hey, I'm just okay, you know, with that more dull, natural coloring, that's where I just added in a little bit of sparkle dub, just a little bit, and you don't have to. The original pattern is without. So those that don't like the extra, you don't have to do it. Just know that we're gonna be mixing two colors. And so I have my light, and the original pattern was in the olive, that you can see here, and then it's a dark head. It's a black, there we go. It's a black, there we go. I don't know if that's good. And it's a black head. And so for that insect look. And then the magic ingredient is that little bit of piece of foam. And when I don't know how many of you cut your own foam bodies for your terrestrials, you know, hoppers or chubbies or anything. If you do cutting your own foam, I always keep a razor blade at my tying desk. And those scraps left over, I slice them into these just for this pattern, because you can create your own pattern also. After I show you this tiny little pattern, that's just so fun. But then the same thing with the black. You can keep that flat coloring and go into just a dubbing, and it's just whatever your favorite dubbing is. With this fly, you can mix your dry with your sparkle, your dry fly dubbing. I really prefer just a little bit of that anyway, because some stuff is too coarse. It's too coarse to really wrap around and get that nice little smooth dubbing look that you want. And so with this, again, I've got, hey, I'm good and A-OK natural, but hey, I'm a little extra special and I want you to choose me. So that's just Christy's thought process. Nothing, you know, is scientific about it. It's just me. So I'm gonna just shelf it, and I just break it and re-shelf it. And sorry, not gonna really show this very good, but I'm just pulling and I'm just making a small rectangle is all I'm doing. And I just pull it until I can see that everything is kind of laid out evenly. And once it's laid out evenly in the coloring is what I'm talking about, into a nice little rectangle, I put it down, and then I know it's ready to go. So I have a couple of those. I have my olive and my black, and my secret ingredient, a tiny slice of foam. And it could be 3M, 2M, 1M, whatever you have. It's just that little bit of foam because it gives it that little buoyancy once it goes subsurface. And then our fourth ingredient is you can add a little wire rib. I do love midrib. A little wire rib. Ooh, this way. And I do love the midge, the extra small. I love to work with that on several nymphs and even a few dries. But typically, my most favorite thing is midge flash. So I pull out a strand of midge flash in case I want that rib to be that little extra special touch. You know, it's that secret sauce. It's whatever you feel deep inside is your secret sauce and what you're adding to your fly. Because when we put it all together, we're just wrapping materials on a hook, you know, and creating something, but it's got to mean something to me, and then it even means more to that fish because you loved it so much. Well, that's what we really hope. But if we go on here, so I'm just going to wrap it forward, and I will add in that little bit of a tail tonight. And I'm going to use the midge flash for this little buddy. I'm just going to tie him in. He's going to be all covered in dubs, so we're just going to tie him in, bring him in, tie it down, bring it back. And we're just going to let him lay just alongside. Nothing too fancy. And now I'm just going to take a small amount and get ready. You could do a whole dubbing loop and spin it, but this is just easy enough. And I'm going to make that little bit of that rectangle again. And then my other little personal favorite is I keep vitamin E. And you can buy vitamin E sticks. I do like just a solid vitamin E in case you ever need to moisture your lips, you know, while you're tying, or, you know, powder it up. But actually, I like the vitamin E for how it feels and when I'm dubbing and the product. There's other, you know, your dubbing spin, your dubbing wax, you can totally use those too. I just really have gotten used to the vitamin E stick, and you can just buy that in any beauty section, you know, anywhere you go shop, Walmart, the mall, your Lancome, anywhere you want to go, to Macy's. But as we go, sorry I've got a bum finger, so my dubbing spin finger is a little messed up today. Hey, welcome sisters, what are you doing? Good, how are you? I am amazing, and how are the rest of us? Amazing. Yeah, we got it. Okay, so as I spin it on, sorry, my main finger is on the fits. I bumped it up the other day. And so now, just gonna retie in, take it over, respin. The main thing is with this little fly, whatever consistency that you're making in that width of the body, you want to keep it consistent without. Less is more on this fly. It's not, you know, a big bulky little nymph, you know, we want that meat and that larger thorax. It's just enough following that shank that it gives that body a little bit of meat, a little bit of something here. Now I'll add just a tiny bit more of that magic mixture that we made. Just a little magic mixture, that's all that it is. Giving that little bit of a body here, a little too much bulk. And then I'm going to carry him about 70, so just a hair under 3/4. About 70% of that shank is what I'm going to take him for the first color dubbing, the first color change. About 70%, and I'm going to hold him here. Now, like I said, we did tie in a little bit of a rib. Even though we do have flash in this one, if you were just doing the solid mottled flat olive color, you can sure do it. But this is also tying in a little bit more security to that dubbing. And I'm just going to hold him off to the 45, bring it up and over. And when I'm tying off materials, I usually bring it back and give a secure little cutoff. Pull in there and just let it go. Now the secret is we're going to tie in our magic ingredient, our little bubble. So he's not only going to give, when this little fly is in the water with that little bit of buggy body, it's not a lot, but he's going to give a little bit of bubbles, you know, for that natural insect look with the air sacs around him. But this little guy, our foam, is what's going to keep him in that subsurface area, so he's not going to be as deep as others, and it's going to just keep him right where you see those fish are sipping, but they're not taken. So like an emerger, but not that full effect of the emerger, and still in that nymph stage. And all we're going to do is bring him up and over, and we're going to tie it down nice and tight. So as I trap in this piece of foam, it's okay wherever you bring it, because we're going to hide it, and this foam is going to wrap down, up and over. So he's tied in, but I'm not too worried. I'm just going to keep the bulk of him up on top, and now I'm going to make him invisible and capture him all the way back down to where our green, our olive has started. So just bring him back, wrap him tight, back it up a little bit right here, and then we're going to let him just be. Just let him be, and we're going to go back to our head, to our next little coloring, our change into thorax in the head of our bug. And again, I'm just bringing it into a small little rectangle. It's what works for me. And then I could always restack if I need to, if it doesn't feel right or if it's too thick in one section before I dub it on. And my dubber finger is still so tender, sorry. And I bring him off. But the nice thing about this little guy, get more little vitamin E here, we got it. Okay. Is we're just going to hold that foam back as we bring it forward. We're going to keep ourselves some room to make the head after we tie it off right here, but we've got to have enough to bring that foam up and over. And like I said, this is just a pattern that started out on the Cottonwood Lake for Star Valley, just an old school pattern, but he's very effective. And now I'm just going to stretch, so I'm not going to pull so that I break off that foam, but I'm going to keep him taut. So just taunt enough that it comes up and over, and then I'm just going to use my fingers and pinch his tautness. Give that little bobbin a swirl so you can capture it. Give him a little tautness before he captures down, and there you go. He's right up over the top, just like a bubble back. Up and over. Capture him a couple more times, keeping it so that it's not cutting the foam away. And then we'll build a small head, taking it back, and for that taper into your nymph. But he's captured here, so now I'll pull up, and I want to give resistance and that tautness so that, as you can see, hopefully, it's just enough of, see that with you, just enough so now when I build the head, that end will be captured and tapered up into the body, and he'll be invisible and you won't even know that he was ever there. And then we could just whip finish and tie off. And I'm a big uni thread person. I do love my 8/0 and 6/0 to tie most things. Just what I learned on, and it's just something that I'm very comfortable with. And as you can see here, before we whip finish, where did I put him? Had him all out. Sorry. Give him a little head cement right here, but this is our little Cottonwood Special. And he's a very simple but effective little fly, especially for when they're being a little difficult. Those fish aren't cooperating with your, awesome sauce that you're giving them. And so if you're just not enough and you need a little more, you pull out this Cottonwood Special, tie it in your own variety, and then, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, I've turned him. Oh, I was trying to turn him. There we go. So, like I said, we're a little exaggerated on this size 6, but once again, 14 is the largest, 16, 18, 20, and he's amazing. He whips up really quickly, and then just really be creative and let your inner rock star, tying star come out. Because if you've been doing the dull life all the time, I challenge you to give a little Christy spice to it, because in your box, like everything else, there's those sparkly things, and then there's times where we do need the muted, duller things that's in our arsenal. So I challenge you to just, explore and practice tying. This is a great little fly. Also, if you're teaching any basic fly tying classes, also because people, or even with the kids, they can take this fly and create their own and really inspire them to create their own magic with creating and mixing dubbing. So with that, now what I've found, this is the standard, like I said. With that, we're going to change our little pace here, and you can get a little more creative and go more to that change with it, like a peacock dubbing, but olive and that little change with the black is really predominantly what I found is be most effective. The next effective part is, like I said, is changing pace to a lighter coloring and to some areas where in lake areas or below dams or somewhere where you might have some freshwater shrimp or some mises that you would like to fish, or you don't have that true exact pattern, or they're getting pretty used to what you're giving them. So it's a little challenge to yourself is change up the Cottonwood Special into some, where is it? There it is. It looks a little more purple under the light right here, but right here, just changing it up so that you can see that coloring and changing him to just be lighter. And you could also do this in the, where are you? There we go. In the ice dub in this pearl. And I really like the UV2, this shrimp, or the mises, the one that's actually for it, as I really love this coloring, and that's what is on this little guy right here. This one that I had tied up so that you could see the change, but also letting him sip and letting him drift along. Like if you are below a dam and you have a current and you have a channel that's coming along, just letting him drift and bob, and see if that changes it up just a little bit more for you to where it has that little bit of buoyancy, and where they can say, hey, I don't know about that just plain old guy over there, but I'm gonna go for this one. That's what we want. Well, that's what we always hope and tell ourselves. So with that, that's just 2 variations, and that's a Cottonwood Special, and that's just an old school pattern that's been around in Star Valley for quite some time. And I don't really know too much about the original tire of this pattern, Stuart Thurman, but I do know that if you talk to any of the old timers, or old anglers, I should say, older anglers, more experienced anglers that are in the valley, that they definitely have a few Cottonwood Specials in their box to use, on a hand raised fork and a few other places on the South Fork where they go also. And so with that, but just know that you have some variations and some options to do with those, changing it up and really experimenting with your dubbing and letting that inner, fly star come out, I hope. That's my thought for all of you tonight.